It's so weird to hear what's real, what's really going on. All of a sudden, my friend looked at me and he said, "Did everything just go dark?" Hello, my name is Jay Bachochin. Um, Pretty much in my life, I've been more of a truth seeker, more so than cryptids or ghosts or aliens. So it's been kind of a running passion through my life to find the truth, to what I call find my truth and hunt the truth. And it's kind of a mission statement that I've come up with a while ago. It's not literally hunting, but it is seeking. And through my life, besides seeing unidentified flying objects with my own eyes, not on TV, not on documentaries, but with my own eyes, that was something that I needed to actually seek out to see what those were. And that kind of led me into the paranormal, into seeking of what the ghost phenomenon is, and led me right up here to looking for Bigfoot in the Kettle Moraine in Wisconsin.
Hi, I'm Linda Eastburn of Linda Eastburn YouTube channel, and I have a new book out called Threshold to Encounters. It's about 40 years of research and experience with all of these wild cryptids that many of you I know have encountered yourself. You can find it on Amazon.com. So, have you had any personal encounters yourself?
Personal encounters as far as UFOs, as far as ghosts, as far as weird things happening to me, or even as far as Bigfoot. Yeah, I would say let's start with the first part of that is, having my sightings, but something intriguing happened when I was about, I'm going to say around 9 years old, and we were playing Star Wars figures with my next door neighbor, and it was a bright, sunny summer day, and we are sitting on his kind of windowsill in his bedroom, and I remember what kind of day it was, and while we were sitting there, all of a sudden everything went black. And it's pretty much like when you close your eyes black. And it lasted for only a couple seconds, but then everything went back to normal the way we were sitting there. And all of a sudden my friend looked at me and he said, "Did everything just go dark?" So that really intrigued me, even being that young, is, looking back at it now, if it just happened to me, I think it'd be more of a personal, um, I don't want to say encounter experience, but it happened to two of us. A lot of people ask, "Do we lose time or anything like that?" And I don't recall that being that young. Um, but those is really what kind of pushed me into hunting the truth. And so through my life, besides seeing the UFOs that I mentioned over my lifetime, I have had some very odd paranormal experiences. Mm, when we used to investigate people's houses or different buildings, things that I could not explain, as much as everybody wanted to say it's a ghost, and a ghost is somebody who passed on and they're lingering around. That very well may be, but there still may be, thinking outside the box, different answers to that. And that's what I was searching for. As far as the cryptids, as soon as I was pretty much kind of at the end tail of the paranormal investigating, I live up here. I'm just a 13-minute drive from Bray Road in Elkhorn, which is famously or infamously known as the Beast of Bray Road. And I thought, hey, what a better way to just kind of patrol the area, see if I can see any sightings or see what the whole hoopla was about that Linda Godfrey wrote about with many different books. And that kind of led me into the Kettle Moraine. And in the Kettle Moraine, the first time being out there, it was I was out there with about three other people, and it was a dark October night, and we were out there. Probably it was about 9 o'clock at night, so it was dark. but we all heard something that we could not identify, and it sounded very much like it was so weird to hear, and I did capture a little bit of it, but it sounded almost like a person, yet kind of one of those simian type primates that maybe you would hear in an old black and white movie going down the Amazon. So that's what kind of catapulted me into what's real, what's really going on.
Well, I can understand that would definitely cause you to question some things. Let's go back to this experience you had with the other um, young boy when everything went dark. Now, describe the circumstances. It was a bright sunny day. You were outside playing. How many people were there in your hemisphere when you were doing this?
Yeah, I mean it was in his house, in his bedroom. It was just the two of us, and they kind of made an extended windowsill, almost like a little platform that you could actually sit on or put toys on or whatever. And it was just the two of us, and we were playing with some Star Wars figures, and that's when that happened. So nobody else was in the room. I know it was the afternoon, and I remember how I could vividly remember the way the sky looked. If you wanted to look at the opening of The Simpsons or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when he said, "How can I go to school on a day like this?" It was just like that. It was just a perfect day, and that's when I call it the 5 second blackout happened, and nothing. I don't think I've told anybody about that until I was older. So yeah, even meeting up with my neighbor, I actually reached out to him. Well, this was probably about 12 years ago, and I found him on Facebook and refriended him and talked about some of the old times. And I did want to bring that up though, and he still remembers it as well. So that's what happened when that was going on.
So was it dark, like pitch dark, no moon out, kind of dark? You couldn't see your hand in front of your face, kind of dark, or was it just like dark in that a
Like a
cloud comes over
shadow,
them? Yeah.
right? No, it was as dark as if you would just close your eyes. Just close your eyes, don't look at any light. That's how it was. It was completely blacked out. So it didn't just like a big shadow come over or anything, and all of a sudden it just got really dark. No, no. I mean, it's literally close your eyes, you see nothing dark. That's the blackout.
I don't think I've heard that. I've heard a lot of situations where bright light, illuminates a room or even outside or something just out of nowhere. But kind of the opposite of that. But I don't think I have ever heard of this just complete pitch dark kind of situation happening for a short span of time. I don't think I've ever heard that. So that is very unusual. I don't suppose you ever been at your age and such, ever thought of looking up any kind of astrological or astronomical, things that were happening at that time, or just anything odd that was going on, any reports of anything happening. Um,
Yeah, we did a little bit later on. My grandfather was in the early chapters of MUFON in Chicago. So we, as a grandfather, a and grandson, we had a lot to talk about because he was studying the UFO phenomenon since the 50s. So that really gave us something. The big thing that's always been hard was to try to find out the exact year, the exact month, and the day that you could start looking up to cross check if there was anything unusual going around. And that's just might as well be as part of my blackout, is not knowing the exact year or day or month. I can recall everything else in my life, it seems like, but not that.
yeah, yeah, that would be hard. Especially, time passes. and you're young and you don't even think in terms of getting more detail or investigating that at 9 years old. You just wouldn't. I can totally appreciate that, but it's a really unusual phenomenon that I haven't heard before. So, thanks for sharing that. So sightings, have you seen a Bigfoot or a cryptid since you've been out looking?
Well, I I could say yes on both accounts. When I started doing the Bray Road patrolling, and the reason why I say patrolling is because you go down Bray Road during the day. It's a public road. Everything else is privately owned by, you know, third, fourth generation farmers, which they all know themselves. So it's something that you have to respect and just not pull off on Bray Road and start traipsing around the fields or anything like that because it's all privately owned. However, you can travel the roads. And that's what we were doing. And we would do this sometimes during the day and sometimes during the night. And in one instance, coming home from the kettle, I would always do a quick patrol around Bray Road, and I was actually going down Bowers Road, and that it's kind of an adjoining road because it kind of comes as a triangle by Bray, and it was about 1:15 in the morning, and I wasn't creeping too slow because I didn't want to look like I was a car stalking, but I wasn't going that fast. I remember it was under 20 miles an hour, and a hiking partner I went out with that night, his name was Sanjay, and he was actually looking at the photos he was taking during the day from that hike. And as we were coming down, like I said, it was under 20 miles an hour, right off to the left. And sometimes you think, is it hallucination? Is it, this is what you're expected to see? But right on the side of the road on the left, it looked like, I'm going to say 7 foot by bipedal, what looked like with a dog head. And it was there just as I passed it. My headlights hit it because it was right on the side of the road. And that just surprised me. Now, the weird thing is it actually looked like one of those cutouts, like a Han Solo cutout or a Bobo, whichever that you can just put up in a room. It looked more two-dimensional than it did three-dimensional. So it really kind of threw me off a little bit, but I felt more confident in the car because, well, you're in a car and you had somebody with you. I slam on the brakes. Sanjay, what are you doing? And I immediately just hit reverse and back up about 15, 20 feet and actually turn my car headlights right at where I saw it. There's nothing there. And now, a lot of times you could say, well, all right, you had a misidentification of an object on the side of the road. This particular road just kind of on the left side ended with about a 7 foot ditch. And then it went into what already looked like harvested fields, just nothing but dirt turn. There was no trees there, no poles, no bushes, nothing. So it was one of those that, what did I see? Was I hallucinating or did I really see this? And it just wasn't there. And that really didn't compute. It doesn't go with my thoughts back then of cryptids are just flesh and blood and that's it. Over the years, I've been looking at it saying, well, maybe you hear about them being interdimensional. Well, is that possible? I don't know, but whatever I saw on the side of the road was literally just gone. And I had nothing there, that no object for me to misidentify. And it was right on the side of the road. And the reason why I say 7 feet tall is I had a Ford Escape, and this actually towered. It appeared to have towered my Escape, and my Escape would be right at about 6 foot, a little over six, with the top. And so that really just kind of it gave me the creeps because it's like I saw it, but did I see it? So now you're questioning, it, and that's what the human mind will do when you see something that doesn't fit your paradigm. You will start to question it. That's what your mind is going to do. It's going to make it normal. You've got to be able to come to what is it.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. You mentioned that your grandfather was head of a MUFON organization in Chicago when you were young. Were you ever part of any kind of, and I have a reason for asking this, but were you ever part of any kind of a training group or any kind of a research organization involving UFOs yourself?
No, not at all. I've always been just kind of that solo investigator that I look, you keep your ears and eyes open. But again, but way back then, of course, I was 10 years old, 9, 10 years old. And even though we were able to talk about it, no, I've never found myself into a group or anything like that. It would be more going to the library back then, back before the internet, and studying it that way, or seeing different documentaries that are going to be on TV. And I think at that point, even, in the 80s, I always looked at it of saying, they came out with the alien autopsy movie, later on. And it's kind of, you really don't know, right? Because it's TV, and everything on TV is true, right? And I really didn't believe that. I'm always like, okay, it's all for entertainment. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And that's where my push of truth seeking came from, was to be able to find out answers for myself from either personal experiences or reliable sources that have personal experiences as well. So yeah, as far as being any part of any group or anything like that, I was not.
So have you had UFO experiences outside of that then?
Just sightings. Excuse me. Just
Any kind of alien contact or just craft in the sky, lights in the sky sort of thing?
pretty much lights in the sky. I mean, I'll joke about it up until now with my wife when I wake up with a bad back or something like that. I'm like, oh, I think I was abducted last night as a joke. But I mean, who knows? So, some things that you kind of regress over time and not think about it, or the direction that I was put in, or this path that I was put in now may have been effect from that. I don't know, and I don't claim to know. Um, Pretty much the only things I remember are my the visuals that just um, defied the way aircraft would have been then. A lot of people today will see it and say, okay, well, they're drones. They can zip this way, that way, and have a quick maneuver and shoot off really quick. Uh, Back in the 80s and 90s, did they have them? Again, I don't know. Maybe the government did have them, back then, and that's what they were using. Who knows? Or are they extraterrestrial, outside of our existence? I don't know. I can just tell you what I've experienced.
Sure, absolutely. I understand that. Um, so I'm still kind of caught up in that moment that the two of you just saw darkness. I mean, I'm trying in my mind to think of, okay, what could have or would have caused it. And I'm sure you have racked your brain much more than I have because I just found out about this.
Right.
What were some of the ideas or concepts that you came up with that you think might have caused that?
And this was before having any sightings as a kid or anything like that. So uh, I'm going to be honest and say I didn't really think about it. I never pursued it, especially when it happened, or you kind of forgot about it until something triggered it later in life to where you look back at it. And again, I don't have an answer for it. Because again, if it just happened to me, I would blame me physically. But when my friend looked at me and said, did everything just go dark? And I said, yeah. And it's kind of like as a kid, shrug it off, keep playing with your Star Wars figures. Um, but even going back until now, right now, and thinking about it, I don't have an answer for it, because I don't think the whole world, or at that point, just went to total black. because it would just be a mass experience. So it happened to us individually, uh, within ourselves, maybe within our own heads. Again, I don't know. That would be my speculation, just because there was no mass experience mentioned anywhere at that time.
Well, there are lots of very odd things that happen to people. I've researched for years the UFO phenomenon, paranormal things, Bigfoot more recently, but a lot of really odd things happen to people, and there isn't a lot of explanation for it. Sometimes, it's something that's very natural, like electromagnetic field gets really warped or something. There's some kind of a strange, thing that happens, and there's some kind of a physical explanation, but we certainly don't know what it is. But I don't know what would cause that. So my first inclination is to, start researching, what would make, things just go black inside of you for
Right.
two people for a short period of time like that. I think that's a very interesting thing that happened to you. But you've had other paranormal experiences as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely those and the sightings. Um, I would go into, when we started doing the paranormal investigating, this is literally hunting the truth. The first things that were coming out in early 2000 was Ghost Hunters, TAPS. That was the cornerstone of the what the paranormal is today on all the channels. And I was so intrigued by it, but again, I was, is this real? And or am I just being had? And that's when me and my wife formed a paranormal group, Wisconsin Paranormal Investigators. And I just got a bunch of group of friends that wanted to sign up. And next thing you know, I had a team of 10 people with all the, you know, every gadget you can think of, with the DVR system, setting it up, audio. So you're studying so much in different places. And in this particular place, it was a house that was built in the early 70s, and they claimed that they had an old man that would appear in the basement, in one of the rooms, holding a cigar box. But the apparition that they've seen actually looked black and white, like kind of like a black and white movie. In fact, they said it looked like it would speak, but it was like in a silent movie, like you couldn't hear anything and then it would just vanish. So that was the claim. So we're like, yeah, we're all on this. And you get to these houses, and your adrenaline's kind of going. You try to settle it down because you don't want to, um, overstimulate the mind of every sound is going to be a ghost. So, you go in there and walk that fine line. And I remember it was about 3 a.m. And I actually had the basement at this time, because we would take different shifts and move different people in different areas. There's probably about four of us in the house at that point of the team. And I had one investigator that was on the outside of the room. And this is just the dark, and I have a millimeter and EMF detector. That kind of, the screen kind of illuminates a little bit of green. And I remember just sitting there. At this point now, we've been there for several hours. Now you're just sitting in someone's basement in the dark, and you're starting to get tired. So it's like, that adrenaline, all that stuff is gone. Nothing's been going on through the night that we knew about. And I was sitting in there and just chilling. And the other investigator that was in the other room, he uh, he could actually see kind of that green glow of the millimeter, that EMF meter up on there, and he goes, "Are you moving in there?" Because he was seeing some light starting to block out right where he was at. And at that point, I'm like, "No, I'm not moving. I'm just sitting here." And just then, and this, you wish you can share the feeling so other people can feel it. The Something ice cold went through me. I mean, when people say it got cold or you feel like something moved through you, I can tell you it was ice cold through my body. All of a sudden, I was looking at the hair on my arms, and they were standing up like the redwood forest. Like it was just this static charge. And I'm like, just whoa, and I'm like, it almost left me a happy feeling. And this is kind of weird if anybody's ever seen the movie Poltergeist, to where Carol Ann is on the other side and she runs through the mom and can feel it. And that's almost what I felt. It wasn't scary. Um, yeah, I wasn't afraid. And again, I was already lowered with my expectations. Like I said, it was 3 a.m. in somebody's house and you're getting tired. So it just all happened at once and it just went right through me just, and it wasn't just my arms. I could feel the hair on my legs. Everything was just on the back of my neck, my head. It just, everything felt like it was a static, that freezing cold static, and it went away. And that only lasted for maybe 2 seconds, but you could kind of feel it just go right through you. So again, I go back to, all right, somebody else identified on the other room that it looked like a shadow was moving. I couldn't see the shadow. I'm just looking at a low green light that's kind of um, would be more lighting up the ceiling, but not a lot, just this light. And then that happened. So, was this the old man with the cigar box? I didn't see anything. All I did was feel it, and it was an extraordinary feel.
Well, I think that's true that some people, they have stronger senses and perception of some of these paranormal things. I know for myself, I've only had one actual ghost experience. I've researched quite a bit, but I've only had one actual ghost experience, and it was more of a feeling. It wasn't a visual, but other people there could see, and they could see the energy. And then it was confirmed later on, kind of accidentally, but it was confirmed later on that someone had died right there where I was feeling this and where someone was seeing this kind of static energy moving around in that particular
Hmm.
area. So I think it's true. Some people are much stronger at seeing, and other people are stronger at feeling something like that.
Yeah, very, very possible. I've always been visual. Everything that I've seen or experienced has always been a visual. In this case, I saw nothing, and it was just unexpectedly. A lot of people would say, well, maybe when the other investigator said, "Are you moving in there?" that you got scared or that heightened anything. But at this point, 3 a.m. in someone's basement, I was totally fine. No, I'm not scared. Even if you said something was moving, I can visually see a light green, on the ceiling and the millimeter. And no, I was not scared. It whatever went through me just yeah, just I don't want to say electrified. That sounds so over dramatic. It was just this cold, really cold sensation. And sometimes I you can almost refer to it as if you ever got an MRI and they give you an injection that actually kind of it feels like it just warms up your whole body. Not everybody's had had to go through any type of procedures like that, but it was like that through my body, but just like an icy cold.
Yeah, some shift or change in energy that you were perceiving for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what other experiences have you had?
So definitely when I was doing that, talking about that going through, and then afterwards having the Beast of Bray Road sighting, because that happened after my ghost investigation, my paranormal investigating. Now we're coming into the Kettle Moraine, where Bigfoot, that was the last thing on my list. I mean, I could believe in aliens, ghosts, the Loch Ness Monster, even the Beast of Bray Road, possibly. But Bigfoot has always been that butt end of a joke. It's always been, Sasquatch, Bigfoot Wookiee sound or or whatnot. So I saw the movie Mysterious Monsters in the 70s at the theater, and I remember seeing the Patterson Gimlin film, and I'm looking at it, kind of rolling my eyes at 10 years old, saying, this is a guy in a suit, that's what it'll look like. And, people have been searching for Bigfoot all over the world, especially here in North America for a long time. All right, so where's the proof? You got casts, and anybody could fake casts, and anybody could fake, getting into a gorilla suit and saying there's Bigfoot. So to me, Bigfoot was always the very last out of anything. In fact, when I started going into the woods, I would say I was just looking for like a wood beast or something like that. I would never say Sasquatch or Bigfoot because I was going to get laughed at. Um, but after that first night that we were out there in 2013 in October, hearing that vocalization that really rattled the four of us. And believe me, we did our due diligence. We got on the soundboards of all indigenous wildlife in southeast Wisconsin, whether it's day or nocturnal, birds, animals, and then you go and you listen to the several different listings of all the different sounds that each animal makes, whether it's mating season or distress. There's so many, and we went through them and we could not find a match. Now, does that make it Bigfoot? No, absolutely not. But it did pique my interest of saying we heard something that none of us have heard in our lives. We're kind of seasoned people. You would kind of know different sounds, but I say, hey, I'm no Outback Jack. I'm no Crocodile Dundee. I wasn't even a woods guy. I'd do investigating, but it was in buildings or such. And so that sound really intrigued me to come back over and over and over. And believe me, it was just a hike through the Kettle Moraine each time until a couple months later. It was February. We had nice snow, and my wife said, hey, let's go. Do you want to go hiking? And let me just preface by saying my wife originally just started rolling her eyes if I mentioned Bigfoot. Okay. So I'm like, yeah, well, let's go for a hike. It'll be a nice couples hike. We'll kind of trudge through. It's snowing. It should be nice. We all bundled up, but we go right to that spot to where I heard the vocals, and it was snowing really, really good. I remember we were making our own tracks. There were spots where there was a foot of snow. There's a spot where there was like a 2 foot drift, and we knew where the trails were. And as my wife was walking ahead of me, you can only pick your legs up so much in the snow that you kind of leave what I call like a snail mark, because they're just together. You're not picking your foot up to make another print and to make another print. Your feet drag. And that's how we were walking. And she got ahead of me about 50 yards, kind of down a little down a kettle and starting up. And I didn't see her, but it's almost like, I knew right about where she was. So I'm still going and I'm following her, the trail, the marks that she made. And all of a sudden I'm looking and there's this huge divot on the left side of her trail that she just kind of went up and around. And then I saw another big divot on the right side, but it was a pretty good span, about close to 5 feet. And I'm thinking, oh, this was actually coming down a kettle. I'm like, oh, okay, either a deer kind of bound down, coming down the kettle, and they put their legs together and they kind of prance and leap. And I thought, well, maybe it was a rabbit as well because they'll jump pretty far and leave impressions. And the closer I got to it, I looked at it, and then I really looked at it, and I'm like, dang, that thing looks like a foot. And I thought, okay, well, that's, pareidolia. I wasn't thinking of Bigfoot. Remember, Bigfoot was the butt end of a joke for me. So I'm like, that sound we heard before could have been anything. It was inconclusive. Then when I looked at the other one on the other side of her trail, there was that same type of print. And it was not a rabbit print. It was not a deer print. It was a close to 17 and a half inch long by 6 inch impression into about, 1.5, 2 foot drifts just smashed down. But then I looked further going down the kettle, and there's another one. and there's another. I could see them, and it was weird because they weren't in a certain gait. They were almost like in a tightrope fashion. And again, my investigator hat comes on, and I'm like, "What the heck is this?" And um, I start recording using my iPhone and taking pictures and video. And I was taking video of all the prints, and then I turn up the kettle from where it came from, and I'm following it up, and all of a sudden I'm hearing these wood knocks like right in front of me, just right up the kettle. And I'm like, okay, now this is weird. Just clack, clack, and almost Morse code. So it wasn't a woodpecker. It wasn't something natural. Something was causing this odd type of Morse code that didn't have a steady pattern. And I'm like, wow. And it's like I'm looking right at it. I'm not even looking at my phone to look through it. I'm looking with my eyes, and I'm like, it's right there. Why am I not seeing this? And my wife was probably wondering where I was, so she was backtracking a little bit, and she came to me and she said, "Were you just knocking?" And I'm like, "No, check this out." And I put on the video, and her eyes got as big as saucers because she's like, she thought I was trying to do some sort of finding Bigfoot, knocking and howling, and I'm like, no, no. So that was the really interesting part. That was like, we could not debunk these prints. And so I've been going back over and over and over for, well, now the past 11 years. And, you're saying, did I have a sighting, right? This is kind of the long-winded, coming up to believing that there is Bigfoot. Bigfoot does exist and does exist in, Wisconsin. And it was last year, March of 2023. At the end of March, we kind of had a weird, freakish snowstorm. It was nice. Oh, you're getting to that springtime, and yeah, we got dumped down with a wicked, I don't want to say blizzard, but a wicked snowstorm in the morning. And so when I was out there researching, my friend Bryn, it's right next to where I research, said you got to check this out. There's these weird trees and these tree structures, and I'm like, I don't know where I stood with those, because again, you don't see Bigfoot. How do you see Bigfoot making sticks or tree structures? But still, it was very intriguing because you'd have to go deep in there with equipment, with I'm going to say at least 10 guys trying to lift stuff because you can't bring equipment in there to try to create this cathedral of it was just amazing. I did take pictures of it. Long story longer, we're getting to it. We were out there for about 3.5 hours. It looked like a winter wonderland out there because there was like 30-foot standing pines, meaning most of all the brush and everything started closer to 30 feet and higher. So you're just looking out at all these, pines everywhere. So you could actually see over 100 yards, through all this. And I was saying goodbye to the woods like I do, like I have been in the past 11 years. And I'm like, all right, guys, well, this is during the day. This is right around 3:30. And um, I'm saying my goodbyes and everything. And right to my right, this this tall vertical jet black, uh I'm going to say bipedal because it was vertical, appeared from nowhere within those trees. I'm going to say 60 yards out. And actually, it was like a 2-second sighting. Sorry, sometimes I get emotional talking about this. It I saw it. I could make out the head. I could make out um the shoulders almost going down to the feet. I could not see the feet. It was like it was um, gliding, and it was just it came from nowhere, and where it should have kept going, it just disappeared. And I knew, deep in deep in my heart, my truth, not anybody else's. No one else to judge, or to give their opinion because they weren't there. So this is where I say you got to find your truth. Don't take it from Jay Bachochin's truth. You got to find your truth. And what I saw was just it was magnificent, and I knew right what it was. And that feeling of everything I've done of investigating and research up to that point, I could just throw it all away because even though I did put out two documentaries, those were just to help guide people or encourage them to find their truth. Um, Not for a, hey, this is Bigfoot, this is what it is I'm going to tell you what that is. So I've already had the documentaries up there, and the documentaries, everything, all my research, all that I could just now, I don't want to say throw out, I just put aside because it's like, I know what I just saw. And it did, it affected me. And it didn't affect me into the point of, by not researching it and having an encounter and being, whoa, what is that? And it's not part of your paradigm and you're trying to make sense of it. This was more of a, there it is. There it is. I saw it with my eyes. I know what I saw. A lot of people afterwards wanted to say, is that it? Are you done? No, because my whole main goal has always been trying to find out what they are, kind of an up close and personal. So I would almost want to say contact. So this was a sighting, but I have questions, and that was one of the biggest things. I've had some other weird things out there, but that was a during the day with my eyes. There it is.
How is that different for you than the dog-faced sighting that you saw along the side of the road?
Well, the the dog thing on the side was a quick. It was there, and I passed it. And when I backed up, it wasn't there. But if you remember what I said, it didn't look three-dimensional. This looked more two-dimensional, almost like a cutout right on the side of the road, even though it wasn't there. So, in my head, I'm like, well, if that's two-dimensional, that doesn't fit with me. So looking at that, I was like, I don't know what it was. I guess that's what it is because it's kind of like it was a quick whoop, there it is. I know what I saw, backed up, wasn't there. Maybe I was questioning it so hard that did I see it? And I never came to anything. In fact, I didn't have a dash cam back then, but that next day I went out and had a dash cam, and I've had a dash cam on my vehicle ever since. Two different vehicles, several different dash cams because they don't last forever. And I still do that. This sighting though, it I think it was more of it's like it allowed me to see it. And I don't know why I feel that way, but it was more I wasn't driving. I was there, your head moves as you're looking out there, when we were leaving the kettle, and I kind of looked to my right, boom, there it was. It just came from nowhere, and I saw it move. The one on Bray Road or Bowers Road, I didn't see move. It was just stationary. And what I saw during the day last March moved, and it just glided. But again, it's like it's weird because it came from nowhere. If it was this big and the standing pines are only so wide, how was it even hiding? And if I can set the picture of this, when I told you that there was a kind of a morning freak snowstorm, is that everything on the ground was white snow. Where all the snow came from was blasted along those side of the trees, and up top where the branches are, and then during the day it starts warming up and the snow starts just plopping down from melting or whatever. But that's what I looked at, and what I saw moving was it was jet black. Like there was no detail to it. There was just this shape. So again, you could say, well, was that two dimensional? Well, it seemed to me, and I can't explain why, it seemed like it had mass to it. And the first thing I would do is go, okay, it's not a quadruped, and I have deer hunted in a different lifetime, and so how deer and what they look like as they move, as they run, as they get spooked, when you kick them up, and this looked nothing like that. And if it was a person, you would not be able to see a person that enveloped in pitch black. There would at least be some different from the hat to the head to what they're wearing, even if they were skiing. But let me again say that there was no way you could ski back there because there was nothing but fallen forest everywhere back there, whether it's sticks, brush, or whatever. There's no way a skier could go there. There were not ski trails. This was just all kind of a rough terrain, kind of a I'm going to say flat at this point, up until about 100 yards. So I know that part of it was flat, but you could totally see wide open. And again, people would say, well, maybe it was a skier, and I'm like, if it was a skier, and I misidentified it, believe me, I'm not sitting here trying to say believe what I saw was Bigfoot. But if it was a skier, a deer, a car, not that a car would fit back there. I'm saying anything that if it went from left to right, it should have kept going and I still should have been able to see it. Even if it was going away from me, I would be able to see movement left or right. This thing just disappeared. And it was just an incredible point, in my life.
What do you think? What do you think they are? What do you think Bigfoot is?
Well, that's the age-old question. You can ask anybody, and since you're asking me, and since I've got your attention, um, I believe that they are flesh and blood. I believe that they are ancient. Um, I'm a Bible believer. You could see, people would say I'm a Jesus freak, or um, or born again. That's what I am. I give my life to the Lord Jesus Christ, and I'm looking at His Word in the Bible. What does the Bible have to do with Bigfoot? Well, it doesn't say anything, but you know what? If you're reading all about Noah, and you look at Noah's son, he was 800 years old, and you could say, well, man wrote that. He wasn't really 800. He just seemed like he was 800. He was 80. Well, now you're going to start picking things that make sense to you and then changing up what doesn't make sense. And I take everything from what it is for what the written word is. The Nephilim came down in Genesis, mated with the women, had hybrids, which were not angel, which weren't human. Okay. So what were they? They're called the Nephilim. You could really research this, but in my world, in the way I'm thinking, is that if these flesh and blood um, entities, or whatever they are, has a long life expectancy, it would definitely help not populating like the human race does, because we have a certain life cycle. So that way, if we're going to reproduce, it's just we're going to keep growing that way because we have a certain life cycle and we don't live forever. But again, the what ifs. What if Bigfoot has been around so long and has been able to develop everything that we lost as humans? meaning right now we have the processed food, technology, everything is just kind of, keeping us back from our full potential that Bigfoot actually has. Therefore, are they magical? Are they like the Predator movies? I don't think so. I just think they have developed everything that they can use around them in their environment after all these times. So, I keep thinking the one that I saw a year ago, March, that could have been around for 400 years. I'm not, I'm throwing that out there. We don't know. A lot of people want to because as soon as you start talking about what I'm talking about, they consider that the woo, and the woo is paranormal. Like the woo. You have a flesh and blood primate, and he's got special powers. Well, nobody really knows. That's how come you said, "What do you think they are?" I'm going to tell you what I think they are. You could ask the next person over; they're going to say something completely different, and that's okay because we got to find our own truth.
True. And since we haven't got a Bigfoot to study, the only thing we have is the evidence from sightings that people experience. But I've heard this story before that a lot of people see a Bigfoot and then they suddenly disappear. So there does seem to be something about them that seems different than like you and I.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of people like to put um, everything in its own box. Like put aliens in its own box, UFOs, ghost in its own box, Dogman or Loch Ness Monster, and then you got Bigfoot, and you have all these separate boxes. But I really do think, in my deep down, is that everything's connected from the UFO phenomenon to the ghosts, to Bigfoot, to different cryptids out there. I believe that they are all kind of from one source. And whether that source is shared, I'm not saying it's the one entity and each one of those, that Bigfoot's an alien, and an alien is really kind of a solid ghost, and a ghost is somebody from, 1908 crossing over our different plane in a parallel universe. Who knows? But I like to think outside the box. And once I kind of get there, uh, thinking, all right, I'm thinking outside the box. It's Nephilim. It's this. It's that. Then I stop. Then I reimagine it again and say, think outside the box of that. Just to be able to try to keep things open a little bit, because the way I research is a lot different from the way other people research, and that's okay. We're all striving for the same goal, and that's how come I look at it and say, hey, I will listen to you, listen to your techniques. That's great. You have your opinion on that. That's great. I'm not going to fight it because, as you just said, nobody has one, in their garage studying it. And if they did, we wouldn't be having this conversation of what we think a Bigfoot is.
It's true. And certainly there are enough experiences with all of these cryptids and aliens and ghosts and various other creatures that something's going on, something's out there. People are having experiences.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you could take away in all these sightings, whether it's ghosts, UFOs, or Bigfoot, take Bigfoot and make your pie graph out of that and start wedging down what really is just a hoax. How much of it is misidentification? How much is it for hoaxing for a personal gain? And you could really take that pie chart and whittle it down. But even if you had that 5% of this pie that said was 100% real, uh, real encounters, that makes it real. So you can't think that everyone having an encounter is crazy or misidentified or having misidentification. So that's where it really does become real.
It does. And, I interview so many people that have had some form of an encounter, mostly with Bigfoot, but there's a genuine impact, like you said, that this has on them when they see something like this, when they experience that. Sometimes it's fear, and sometimes it's just deep curiosity, and sometimes they're just overwhelmed with some kind of a compassion. I've even heard them say that there's just this deep sense of sadness almost that they encounter when they see a Bigfoot. So everyone responds slightly differently, but all of them it has a profound impact upon them.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's mine, the way it affected me is because I was trying to find my truth. And I think that's why it affected me the way it did. Because prior to that sighting, I had enough, what I'm going to call evidence on my part, whether it's a Bigfoot cast, having rocks thrown at me from nowhere out in the kettle, to seeing like beady red eyes in the dark with no light shining on them, to having something just walk up right behind you and kind of give a right behind you, and there's nothing there. You turn around, we don't know, but there was enough of that for me to say, I know Bigfoot exists. I don't know what Bigfoot is, but I know it exists. And then having this sighting, now I had that visual that kind of put the cherry on top. That's what it was. It was that sweet, wow, this is what I've been doing. This is what I've been searching for. There it is. And that's not the end of the story, because that was never my intention, was to see one. And no, I did not film it because, well, you'd say the universe plays the cosmic joke on you, is that I do have a body cam on. No, it's not a GoPro on my head, but it's just a body cam where my torso is facing straight and my head was looking right. So I did not catch that, but that was okay, because what was I going to do with that? And I'm not out there researching to try to prove to the world that Bigfoot exists. I'm not. I don't have that type, because no matter what, you have AI now. You have so many people hoaxing. You can go on YouTube and look at various Bigfoot captured on film, and you don't know if that's real or not. I don't want to say if people are gullible, but if they're not awake enough to understand that everything that you see is not real, that's when I say, hey, if you really have that drive and you really want to believe, go out and find your truth, because, there's approximately 8 billion people in the world, and everybody's going to have their own truth, right? Everybody has their truth. So it's up to you to go discover it for yourself and find your truth, whatever that's going to be, whether it is a hoax, whether it is a guy in a suit, whether it's just a primate that we haven't caught up with, or an alien, or Nephilim. Go find it. Go find your truth.
Absolutely. A lot of people are attempting to find some evidence. A lot of people are attempting to get stories out, and I appreciate you sharing all this information with me today. I'm going to go ahead and end the interview. How can people find your information, see whatever you have out there?
Yeah, you can actually go on and type in jbachochin.com. You'll get to my website. Through my website, you can get to my social media. I do have links to my 2 documentaries that I have on Amazon Prime. The first one is Finding Jay, that came out in 2019. And then Beyond the Kettle, Finding Jay 2 in 2022. You can find the links to Prime directly, or just search on Prime. And that's it. Either you can also email me from there to get a hold of me if need be, or if you have any questions. And that's pretty much it. I like to put myself out there and listen to other people's stories, because some people will send me, their emails of UFO encounters, Bigfoot encounters, Dogman encounters, just to be able to get it off their chest that I'm not going to judge them. And sometimes it feels really good just to be able to say it to somebody, and for them to understand what you went through. But that's how you could find me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing all your information with me today.
You're welcome. And thank you again for the invitation to come on. You have
Yeah,
yourself a wonderful day.
I'll let you know when this comes out. Thank you.
Thanks.